Hello everybody, my name is Chaos Servant 12345. After giving it some consideration, I have decided to start reviewing fan works online for fun. These can range from anything from fanfiction, fan games, to fan animations, pretty much anything. I am not really limited to any one specific fandom, though I do seem to be more well-versed to review stuff from the MLP and Undertale community. As such, if you have any requests on stuff I could review, go ahead and let me know. I'm always looking for stuff to do. But anyways, let's get started with a little bit about me. Now, my favorite character in My Little Pony Friendship is Magic is the main character, Twilight Sparkle. I feel that because she's the main character, and because the show spent the most time on her, she had the most development, and I could feel for her struggles the most, and I actually look up to her with how far she's come. She isn't perfect, but hey, she really shouldn't be, and honestly, I think that the fact that she still isn't perfect, even after all this time and can still go farther, that only makes her a better character. So, yeah, I actually do think Twilight is pretty awesome. I actually thought the direction they took with her at the end of Season 3 and making her an alicorn did actually turn out fine. And I highly disagree with all the people that said that, oh, this sucks because it's not in Frost's original plan or some other stuff. Because, yeah, it's Season 6 already, guys. They've already well addressed these issues at the beginning of Season 4, and Twilight still has plenty of good moments, and so, yeah, I still like her even after all this time. But anyways, while we're on the topic of Twilight being an alicorn, what do you think is the most evil thing that she had to overcome before she became an alicorn? Could it be Discord, with how he pretty much destroyed the world and brainwashed her friends just to get to that point? Or how about King Sombra, who actually enslaved ponies in the past and has some of the darkest magic on the show even to this day? Maybe it was her friends and brother who abandoned her and disowned her when Twilight called out the fake cadence. But perhaps it was— Wait a minute! That one scene from the end of A Canterlot Wedding Part 1? Yeah, believe it or not, that one scene was actually, for some bronies, the worst moment in the show, and that was the thing that made A Canterlot Wedding bad for them. Now, some people like A Canterlot Wedding and some don't, and whether you like it or dislike it, that's completely fine, different opinions and all that, but I'm sorry, the reason I just listed off for hating it is just dumb. They completely fail to analyze the circumstances of what actually happened, blame Twilight's friends for something that wasn't really their fault, and of course, they have expressed their frustrations in the forms of fanfictions. And a fanfiction of this sort is what we are going to be looking at today. Let's dig into A Canterlot Wedding Aftermath, Chapters 1 and 2, and I'll go more in depth as to why this reason for hating that episode is stupid. So we got— Oh my gosh, where'd you get that vector of chrysalis? And why did you put that at the beginning? Okay, I know why, but still, that looks creepy as heck. But anyways, we open up with a short prologue. You weren't there for me when I needed you most. You all let me down. I mean, come on, girls. Having to watch G3 MLP just because Flurryheart was watching it wasn't all that bad. You wish to see me, Twilight Sparkle. Princess Celestia and Twilight Sparkle had met alone up in Canterlot Tower for a private discussion. Yes, Princess. I have come to see you about your diet. You have not been living up to it lately, and I'm here to get you back on track. But Twilight— no buts! You promised me after you tore my birthday gift to you, remember? But in all seriousness, Twilight is actually meeting with Celestia because she's really concerned about the changelings, and it's kinda justified. What if there are still some left in Equestria? Or what if the ones we cast out come back? How do we fight for that can look like any one of us? But Celestia just smiled. Oh, Twilight. It's really simple. You don't Celestia's horns and eyes suddenly glowed green. Queen Chrysalis had returned and had been impersonating as the princess herself. I got you again, bitches! And I use the same stick to do it! You know what they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it! But it actually turns out that Twilight was just having a nightmare. We get an author's note explaining that the author of this story was one of those people that didn't like that moment for a Canterlot wedding for the same dumb reasons, and he said that he would continue the story if enough people were interested. Sadly, enough people were interested, and, well, here we are. The real first chapter opens up with a sad shot of Celestia, along with another quote from who is presumably Twilight, that I am just going to skip from now on. Day 1. Morning soon came and Twilight stirred and groaned as she woke up. She had a rough night owing to that nightmare, but she knew she had to get up to start the day.
Ugh, oh my gosh, this is why you don't have a hangover on a Sunday night. Ugh.
So yeah, Twilight had slept in so late that Spike actually got up before her and was already doing his chores. "Good morning, Twilight," he said, but he inevitably stared at her.
Oh, morning, Spike.
"Twilight, are you okay? You look like you didn't sleep well."
Don't worry, I'm fine. I just need a cup of coffee.
Twilight, that's not coffee! Huh. I'm getting a weird sense of deja vu right now. Twilight tries to move on with her day, but the story says that she actually has post-traumatic emotions creeping up on her! I mean, my gosh! Twilight has been through much worse than what happened in a Canterlot wedding! Stop being so overly dramatic! Meanwhile, in Canterlot, Princess Celestia had just woken up in her own room when she heard a knock on her door.
Just 5 more minutes.
Wait, how did the sun rise without me? Celestia gets a letter from Twilight telling her that her guards are a little shaky after the attack, and citizens are starting to question their ruler after Chrysalis beat them right in front of their eyes. I will admit that this is actually a really good idea. The idea of everyone being afraid of a new threat that they know can hide in plain sight and even overpower their ruler, and Celestia actually being paranoid about it, that is actually a really good idea for a story. It's a really nice opportunity to delve into Celestia's character and really analyze the psychology and fear that the changelings brought to the table to begin with. Heck, if this entire fic focused on that, this might actually be one of the great fanfics out there. Sadly, this is not the main focus of this story, so we need to get back to the main plot. Twilight and Spike go out in town to run errands, but Twilight is still paranoid looking around for changelings. Spike offers to do the errands for her, but Twilight refuses, saying she's fine. Along their way, they meet up with Applejack, who's selling a new product and giving out free samples. "Howdy, Twilight!" called Applejack, which startled her a bit.
Oh, good morning, Applejack.
Heh, sorry, didn't mean to startle ya. Wait, it said earlier that they were going to Sugar Cube Corner. How the heck did they end up in Sweet Apple Acres? This new product she's selling is applesauce. Wonder why she didn't think of that sooner. Twilight gets a free sample, and of course it tastes delicious. Applejack offers her a jar, but she declines, saying she has errands to run. Applejack asks Spike if something's wrong with Twilight, and Spike says that he's keeping an eye on her, and that all he knows is that she didn't sleep well last night. They arrive at Sugar Cube Corner, but Twilight just acts even more paranoid. Spike tells her to go home and get some more sleep, but this time Twilight complies, and she goes home and gets in bed and falls asleep within a short time. The next chapter begins with Twilight having another nightmare. Twilight woke up in a cold, dark place.
But we live in dark places, dark places.
It was in fact the same underground catacombs that Chrysalis had imprisoned her during the wedding.
Huh, I'm getting a weird sense of deja vu right now.
"Where am I?" she gasped, recognizing the cavern layout. Well, if she recognized where she was, why did she ask where she was?
How did I get here?
She then heard familiar laughter coming from Chrysalis in the guise of Cadence once again. Apparitions of her face started appearing everywhere around her.
Gotcha again, my pretty! Honestly, why do you keep falling for the same trick twice? You can't tell your friends anything, because you can't trust them. They can never understand you. Instead, they betray you and leave you to writhe in your worries.
No they didn't. They never betrayed her. The reason that Twilight's friends and her mentor left her there was because Twilight started accusing Cadence out of the blue for being evil with no evidence whatsoever, and to them it looked like that Twilight was just being an asshole. Sure, it turned out she was right, but they had no way of knowing that at the time. It's called circumstances. If you don't learn them when you're making an accusation, they can be one hell of a bitch to you later. An image of Canterlot Castle corridor appeared on one of the cave walls, showing her friends, including Spike, Princess Celestia, and Shining Armor, walking through the corridor, each of them looking annoyed, save Spike for some reason. Come on, y'all. Forget about Twilight. We got a wedding to plan.
Maybe she's not really our friend after all.
Yeah, who needs her anyways? She's a party pooper.
I can't believe she was my most faithful student.
She's no sister of mine.
Chrysalis laughed maniacally as she turned back into her real form. You know, if Fanon distorts the events of the show this much, I am starting to see why analysts don't use Fanon much in their videos. Twilight starts crying for help, and this causes her to wake up. She then realized it was in the middle of the night, as her clock had a time of 1 in the morning. Then that means it was after the middle of the night.
And wait a minute, are you telling me that
Twilight slept from late morning to after midnight?
Wow! That's a lot to buy, movie! That is a lot to buy!
Spike asks about Twilight's nightmare, but Twilight says she doesn't want to talk about it. Day 2. Hey, Spike? Yeah, Twi?
Sorry about last night. I guess my nightmare was that bad and I just wanted to sleep.
Note to self, write a complaint letter to Princess Celestia later about her sister and her not helping me at all. Spike forgives her, but just then there's a knock at the door. Spike explains that he brought their friends over to help her, and Twilight gets paranoid again, thinking that they could be changelings in disguise. A part of me kinda wants to criticize how Twilight's acting in the story. However, this is at the end of Season 2, and in Season 2, Twilight has shown that she can have these extreme hallucinations every once in a while if she gets really worried. And this is a believable thing to get worried about, and so, yeah, it's kinda accurate that she's acting like this, so, yeah, the story gets a pass here.
Good morning, Twilight, said Fluttershy in her usual soft-spoken voice.
Spike told us you haven't been quite yourself yesterday, so he wanted us to drop by to see how you're doing.
Twilight looking annoyed, probably because she might not have slept well, despite the fact that she apparently slept for at least 13 hours straight. Now, I'm no doctor, but is sleep disorders this screwed up common with extreme paranoia? And her nightmares were giving her second thoughts about her friends. Although the 6 of them were close, Twilight was under the impression that they were capable of turning their backs on her for trying to tell them any personal problems, which they have proved in the past. Yeah, they totally proved that in the past when they acted believably considering the circumstances surrounding the situation. Wait.
But I'm fine, she told them. It's none of your concern.
The other 5 were surprised by these words. Why are you surprised? I mean, sure, Applejack's supposed to be the stubborn one, but Twilight's pretty stubborn herself, too. What are you saying, Twi? Of course it's our concern. You're our friend. We're all your friends.
For how much longer?
Twilight said without even thinking, but she realized what she said and covered her mouth.
Darling, what are you talking about? I'm sorry. I don't know what's gotten into me. It's almost as if some asshole with a keyboard is writing me how they want me to be written without actually thinking about the events I've gone through and actually analyzing what actually happened.
It's weird. I think you need help, Sugar Cube. But that's why we're here. You can tell us what's wrong. That's what friends do. But for some reason, this set something off inside Twilight's brain.
No. I know exactly where the shit is heading.
Yeah? How do I know you're not just gonna pass it off as nothing but a minor setback? You're all good at that! But we know better now, and we're not going to mess anything up!
But this was the last straw for Twilight. Her thoughts from the wedding rehearsal night finally got the better of her.
You liar!
She shouted. Everyone else gasped. They could not believe what their closest friend had just said.
Twilight, what's going on? What's happening to you?
This. So yeah, Twilight started itching at them, saying that how can she trust them? And then Applejack responds, well, Twi, since you put it that way,
You can't!
They cast Twilight malicious looks and transformed into changelings, frightening Twilight into a corner.
No! My friends! They're changelings! They're coming to get me! Spike, help me! Don't leave it at me again!
Wait, I curb stopped several of these when they were attacking Canterlot. Why am I afraid of just a few of them? Ugh, anyways, I need to hurry this crap up. As you probably already guessed, Twilight is just having a hallucination that her friends eventually snap her out of. She starts crying and Applejack hugs her, saying that it's entirely their fault for what happened. Yeah, because screw the fact that Twilight's accusations were utterly ridiculous, and the fact that Chrysalis was a trickster and manipulator, and the fact that she had even brainwashed Shining Armor. Yeah, it's entirely their fault. Spike goes to write a letter to Celestia telling her that something is seriously wrong. When he gets back, he suggests that Twilight tell them about the nightmare, which she complies. Twilight's friends were wide-eyed and stunned. They could not believe what they had said in their nightmare. It also reminded them of what they did to her on that terrible night. Her brother had disowned her.
Wait, what?
Her brother had disowned her. Yeah, why don't we go back to the scene in question and really analyze what was said, shall we?
You want to know why my eyes went all... Because ever since I started having to perform my protection spell, I've been getting terrible migraines. Cadence hasn't been casting spells on me. She's been using her magic to heal me. And she decided to replace her bridesmaids because she found out the only reason they wanted to be in the wedding was so they could meet Canterlot royalty. And if she hasn't been on her best behavior with your friends, it's because with me being so busy, she's had to make all the decisions about the wedding.
That right there was Shining Armor rebutting Twilight's stupid claims and offering an explanation as to why Cadence has been doing what she's been doing, which is much more believable than what Twilight had just got done saying.
I was just trying to...
She's completely stressed out because it's really important to her that our big day be perfect. Something that obviously wasn't important to you.
And here we see Shining Armor expressing his frustrations to his little sister after she had just drove his soon-to-be bride out, in quite a calm manner, must I add.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go and comfort my bride. And you can forget about being my best man. In fact, if I were you, I wouldn't show up to the wedding at all.
And that is the last we see of Shining in this scene. Notice what's missing? Oh yeah, that's right, an actual indication that he had disowned his sister. If he had disowned his sister, he would have said something along the lines of, oh, you're not my sister anymore, and oh, I wish you weren't my sister. Notice how he said none of that. He just said that Twilight shouldn't show up to his wedding. Which, be honest, regardless of whether or not they're a family member or not, if someone tells your bride to screw off, would you want them to show up to your special day?
Come on, y'all. Let's go check on the princess.
You have a lot to
And here we can clearly see that the reason Twilight's friends and her mentor left her was because they're disappointed with her actions. And this is actually very realistic. I mean, if you're disappointed in someone's actions and you tell them out, you should probably give them some time to think about their actions and what they've done. So, no, Twilight's friends did nothing wrong. They just acted like any other rational person would. You failed! But hey, why would I expect any actual thinking in this fic? But whatever. Anyways, the princess shows up.
Oh, Princess, I just wanted to tell you that your sister's doing a very crappy job of helping people with their nightmares.
She goes to try and comfort Twilight, but Twilight remembers her first nightmare and then zooms upstairs. Here's a drinking game for you. Take a shot every time Twilight has a really extreme hallucination or does something panicky as a result of something like an extreme hallucination. You'll be high off your hiney by the end of this fic if you do that. Celestia goes upstairs to try and comfort Twilight, and meanwhile, Cadance and Shining Armor have just shown up. Because this is an accusation fic, we need to get the whole crew here if we want to do this right. But it actually explains that they had just got done with their honeymoon and wanted to surprise visit Twilight. Applejack invites them in and explains what Twilight is currently going through. He insists that they go upstairs, and they all do, and attempt to comfort Twilight. Twilight then explains that she had a nightmare where Chrysalis was Celestia.
Hey, that explains why she freaked out from seeing the princess. Oh, poor Twilight. This is awful.
This is our fault. I'm afraid we're all to blame for this.
No, you're not. Some people just act like idiots sometimes.
Why do you say that? You're all her good friends.
Well, that's part of the reason.
Hey, why are you guys blaming yourselves? Shining Armor's the one who kicked Twilight out of his wedding.
You know, I have a theory that whoever wrote this is actually from some religion or culture that thinks that kicking a family member out of your wedding, despite the reasons, is the same as disowning them. If that's true, then that would explain a lot. Cadance demands an explanation, and Shining Armor goes on to explain what happened to her at the end of Canterlot Wedding Part 1. He even showed the exact dialogue from the scene, word per word. I find this freaking hilarious. You want to know why? Because it shows that this author actually did watch the scene in question, and he knows exactly what was said, and that despite the fact that the actual dialogue was literally put right in front of his face, he literally put the actual dialogue right in front of his face, he still believes that her brother disowned her and that her friends and mentor were the ones in the wrong. Oh my gosh! Cadance was horror-struck. Tears even started to well up in her eyes. Oh, man up, you sissy!
I don't believe what I'm hearing. I don't understand. Why? Why did you do it? But none of us knew she wasn't you. But did you honestly think you justified yourself by saying those monstrous words to her?
My other theory about this author is that he cannot handle any form of rejection at all and thinks that even the tiniest hint of rejection is an act of Satan.
Did you honestly think you were any better? Shining Armor, I thought you loved me.
What does that have to do with anything? Gee, way to make everything about you, Cadance. That's really not selfish at all.
I do, but you didn't love your own sister. You were trying to put me in front of her.
Okay, I understand that the love between one spouse and love between one siblings, that's a different kind of love. But isn't generally the love between one spouse supposed to be greater than the love between one sibling?
She's your own family, your own flesh and blood. No wonder she's hurt. No wonder she had that nightmare. Look what you've done to her. You just made things worse that night. And I thought you were all her friends. What have you all become?
Gee, I didn't know I signed up for the Cadence lecture hour.
Cadence, please listen to me. That was then, and this is now. And right now we have to... I don't want to hear it, Aunt Celestia! You think you would help Twilight when you're the ones who did this to her?
We're just trying to correct our mistakes. Our non-existent mistakes.
You can't! You just can't! You animals!
Considering they're all horses, is that really an insult? Now, if you called them all humans, that would make perfect sense. Cadence runs out of the room crying, and so Chapter 2 ends with Celestia saying they have to bring Twilight back to Canterlot. This fanfic sucks! Okay, I will give credit where credit's due. The spelling and grammar doesn't suck. That's the one of the few things about this fanfic that isn't awful. And I will admit that the idea brought up in it is a really good one. The fact that Twilight, Celestia, and literally everyone else has to get over the stress and fear of the changelings' attack, that is a great opportunity to delve into everyone's character and actually do some really good psychological analysis. However, that was not the main focus of this fanfic, and the biggest problem with it, and which is also the reason why it was written, was that it accuses Twilight's friends, mentor, and brother for things that were not their fault. Heck, if you think about it, it's actually kind of Twilight's fault that that happened to her. I mean, she just came charging in with no evidence whatsoever and just started blindly accusing someone who she didn't actually know was the shape-shifting monster trying to invade everyone. And yeah, the fact that they did leave her there, that was just doing what was rational. Oh, yeah, and there's also the fact that the author doesn't know what disowned actually means. Linkara was wrong. 2014 was not the year where words lost all meaning and we just make them up to suit our needs. That happened much sooner. But anyways, that's my review. If enough people are interested, I might review the later chapters, but yeah. And if you have any requests on what I can review, leave them below. Until next time, thanks for watching.
How could this happen to me? I made my mistakes, got nowhere to run. The night goes on as I'm fading away. I'm sick of this life, I just wanna scream. How could